All right. Welcome back to the GSMC Wrestling Laureate podcast. Just to kind of revamp on what we spoke about, we started the show off with kind of like Thursday wrestling recap, where you had TNA Impact and Ring of Honor, and also a little teaser on NXT Level Up. And then we moved on to the SmackDown preview and how the SmackDowns from here on out are probably going to be like the best SmackDowns you've ever watched this whole year because they have to build up toward Mania. And the third segment, we talked about just like a wrestling news round robin, just stuff to know going into the weekend before I leave you guys for 2 days and we rejoin on Monday. Just kind of things to keep tabs on, like RVD with possible return, The Undertaker considering coming back for a couple more matches, Brock Lesnar being kind of tied up in those scandals and everything, and John Cena questioning retirement. So these are all pretty huge things that I feel like you need our wrestling attention because we're wrestling fans and we, by golly, stick together. All right, let's go ahead and move on to our fourth segment here. Is going to be about Kyle O'Reilly, former Undisputed Era, former Undisputed Kingdom, kind of jumping back into AEW's a singles competitiveness. Um, like I think I mentioned before in the podcast that I don't know if this is too fast for him to come back. I hope it's not. I hope this is like perfect for him and I hope that he totally kills it. But neck injuries are really, really, really serious. Like, and that's the reason why sometimes when kind of like reiterating on this whole people thinking that wrestling is not a sport, that the slightest thing that goes wrong, that could be your career. Hell, that could be your life. Look at like Droz from wrestling back in Raw during the Attitude Era, where D'Lo Brown was he hit I think a pile driver, and he botched it. Now Droz, I think he passed away, but he was crippled his whole entire life. Like he was stuck in a wheelchair. I remember that. And that's just something that's pretty serious. And I kind of hope the best for Kyle O'Reilly and kind of moving forward with that. You also had Edge. Edge was in a match with Brodus Clay. Brodus Clay was coming off from NXT and he had the Funkadactyls with Naomi. Naomi was there. And he performed, I think, a DDT and he botched it and ultimately almost cost Edge his career. Like Edge was out of wrestling competition for years on years. A lot of people were wondering when he was coming back, and I remember his heartfelt retirement speech where he basically told wrestlers and the locker room and fans and his family that he cannot perform wrestling anymore. The doctors basically said, if you wrestle, not that you will die, but it would be really, really bad for your health. And Edge obviously is back. He has had two neck fusion surgeries. So obviously right now he's kind of doing his thing in AEW where he's supposed to fight Christian Cage in a last man standing match next week, Toronto. So I'm looking very, very forward to that match as well. The next one I want to talk about that I looked on the Raw roster the other day because something piqued my interest about this guy is Robert Roode. I remember Robert Roode, the glorious one, glorious. I won't give in. Like he did so good in TNA, and he came to NXT from TNA, and he was a fantastic NXT champion. And I was wondering, I was like, whatever happened to Robert Roode? Like, I wonder if he signed with another company, but he's still on the WWE active roster. But he's also doing producer work as of as currently. But he's also had a neck injury, and he also has had a neck fusion surgery. But I think he's kind of playing a little more safe than Kyle O'Reilly is. But I don't know, like these kind of injuries that wrestlers sustain, like you could be the hottest thing on the market in the wrestling world, and then bam, something like as simple as a botched DDT or like jumping off of the top rope could just end it all. So I think that's maybe why, as a wrestling fan, I kind of admire these guys, and I look up to these guys. I'm like, oh man, like every day they're essentially putting their lives on the line for our entertainment, which is why I love wrestling. Um, Also, another one that I kind of want to talk about was how Stone Cold Steve Austin also got a neck injury. Stone Cold Steve Austin was rising up. He was like the best wrestler during the Attitude Era, like no questions asked. Like he had his feud with Vince McMahon, and he was basically like he was the talk of the talk. Like even sports shows other than wrestling, pro wrestling, like magazines, we're talking about Stone Cold Steve Austin. Stone Cold Steve Austin made the Attitude Era prominent, made it very like kind of put it on the map. He put it on the map. Shawn definitely helped a lot, but Stone Cold Steve Austin, he was the man. He was the oh man. He was like that anti-hero where like he didn't really care about like what people thought of him, but he by you know by dang well he was going to flip off Vince McMahon, give him the double bird, give him a stunner, and like drink some beers, the Texas rattlesnake. But like I said, he had a neck injury, and imagine if he never had his neck injury. How much success would Shawn Michaels would have had if Stone Cold was on the roster? Imagine how much success that The Undertaker had because Stone Cold Steve Austin wasn't there. Imagine how much success that Triple H had because Stone Cold Steve Austin wasn't there. These are all things, and obviously things happen for a reason. And Triple H, Shawn Michaels, and I don't know, they all went on to kind of fulfill their destiny as like a huge main role in WWF slash WWE. So obviously, what they kind of did within the company was very very good. Obviously, if they won the Monday Night War between WCW, but I don't know. Neck injuries are bad. Neck injuries are one of those things where it's not like any other injury. This is an injury that if the slightest thing goes wrong, you can never walk again. And that's huge. That's huge. Like I know a lot of these wrestlers aren't just the wrestlers you see on TV. They're husbands, they're fathers, they're brothers, they're sisters. They want to one day walk their daughter down the aisle and give her away. They want to dance with her on the wedding floor and stuff like that. And you know, that won't happen because of what they put on the line, what happens in the ring, the squared circle. And also, there's another wrestler, Big E from the New Day, also has had a neck injury. I remember it was a match between him and Ridge Holland, where Ridge Holland botched the move, and now Big E hasn't been seen in WWE for a long time. Yeah, I believe he has had two neck fusion surgeries. Um, I don't know. This is just also kind of like a backstage kind of, on the side of the ring aspect is that you kind of rely on other superstars to do the moves right. To like kind of help. I remember watching a video about how Randy Orton was very, very frustrated toward Kofi Kingston because he botched a move and really actually hurt his back. And I think during the match, you can kind of see him getting frustrated at Kofi, like, "Oh my God, are you kidding me? Like, why?" Like, and I think he actually like slapped his head as like a kind of like a dude. Are you serious right now? Like, at the same time, they're performers, but at the same time, they're coworkers. They have to protect each other. And I'm guessing like someone missed a step, and I don't know, something as simple as that could, what could go wrong will go wrong or something like that. But I don't know. I just feel like wrestlers are very, 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 they're prominent athletes. They're sports stars. Wrestling, pro wrestling, either if it's AEW, TNA, Ring of Honor, WWE, NXT, or the small little independent circuits going around, in Wisconsin, Los Angeles, Thousand Oaks area, Texas, Atlanta, whatever. Like, this is a sport. This is something that is, I don't know, very, 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 that it's loved by people. Wrestling has been like, I don't know. Man, there was this one, like a YouTuber who basically said where they grew up, they didn't really have an NFL team or a Major League Baseball team or a basketball team. Usually you kind of have the United States where the West Coast kind of has a lot of attention, obviously. And then you have like the East Coast, and as it kind of draws toward the Midwest area, I know the NBA has Oklahoma City, but besides that, like you kind of have a Wyoming and like Idaho and Nebraska, and South Dakota, North Dakota, and none of those really have any sports teams. Any sport. I know a lot of minor league baseball teams kind of take home there, so to speak, because a lot of like teams like, for example, like the Anaheim Angels have the Salt Lake City, Utah Bees, and because there's not a baseball team in Utah, so that's kind of like where people turn to get their baseball fix. You know what I mean? Um, and well, I was going to kind of segued off there, but if there's no really popular teams in there or like sports enigmas or conglomerates, they rely on wrestling. They rely on independent circuits that they go and they travel to and they watch every weekend that they actually really pay attention to. And I don't know, sometimes wrestling is a household name, kind of like the Dallas Cowboys or like the Los Angeles Lakers or, even the Los Angeles Dodgers. Like, all, sports serves a purpose. And that's the reason why GSMC Podcast Network is, kind of promoting sports. I love sports. You love sports. Why else are you here? In that. But this is all something that we as a community could come together and kind of just have fun, kind of just enjoy it while we have it. Kind of just, I don't know, kind of build this sense of like family. Like, I don't know. I know a lot of stuff in the world right now is, kind of, it's like, it's kind of hard to turn on the nightly news, but, sports is always there for us, ladies and gentlemen. So, all right. Well, that's all I got for you today. Hopefully you guys liked it. Um, we get an we get a number of questions during the show. So like I said, don't, always remember that you have that tips and donations box. Thank you for tuning in to the Wrestling Laureate podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. Your support means a lot to us, so please remember to subscribe to the show. Remember to